On behalf of Justice Vanguard, we have an amazing guest for you guys today. As we do our Black History Month celebration, I have the one, the only, my lovely and beautiful grandmother, JoAnn Richardson. I'm just going to give a virtual round of applause. Cue the audience music. How you doing today? How you doing today, Grandma?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm excited about the interview. Can't wait to give you some information that you've been seeking.
Thank you very much. Well, besides you just being a fantastic person and a role model in my life, you went through a lot of things in your youth that I think have gone underreported. And honestly, I think our education system has been failing to truly do this justice when it comes to talking about race in education. So today I brought you here to speak on some of your experiences with race in education, because you were one of the first people to desegregate a school. And so let's start at the very beginning. What year, the year before, what year was that, desegregation in Dayton?
I'm not sure of the year, but in Dayton, Ohio, where I am, I I want to say I started second grade. And when I started second grade, we were probably about the third Black family in the neighborhood. And from there, I think in my second grade class, there were basically maybe two or three of us starting in second grade. Our classroom consisted of basically Caucasian, and a lot of Greeks were in our neighborhood, and Jews. So it was the Jewish community, it was the Greek community, very few African Americans, and the majority was Caucasian.
So how did the neighborhood accept you guys? What was it like? You guys were all working together, so you guys kind of understood where you came from, or was there discrimination?
But I tell you what, when we lived on William Street, we lived on one section of William Street, and it was fine. The majority was Caucasian, but we felt accepted. When we moved on up the street, I think the label for the neighborhood at that time was Dayton View. And we were not as accepted at all. Um, Not very many Blacks in that neighborhood at all. Um, my mother was, I call her our revolutionary, because she was one that we lived in the neighborhood. Why can't we work in the neighborhood? They would not hire any Blacks at all to work in the grocery store, the gas station, the drugstore, any of the little restaurants around. They would not hire any African Americans whatsoever. So my mother, being who she is or was, um, gathered together with other community activists, Black activists in the city of Dayton, and they picketed, they organized until we did get African Americans to start working in those different venues. So that was a great thing, and it was lesson learned for us because it opened our eyes to a lot of what can happen if you're organized. You don't have to be violent, even though violence did come toward us because of her efforts. Um, I can remember rocks being thrown at our house because of her efforts out there in the community. I can remember a firebomb being thrown at our house. And I don't know if my siblings can remember this. The fire was put out very quickly. but it was not a good time. Matter of fact, it was kind of scary because you never knew what was going to happen as you walk down the street or try to go to the grocery store, which was around the corner. Um, we never wanted to be caught in the alley, which was behind our house, because you never knew what may or may not happen. So it was kind of a scary time for someone that was 9, 10 years old. Um, and let's go back to education. I had teachers telling us
Well,
I think I was 12. I think I was like 12 years old. Had a teacher point his finger in our faces saying, "We're nothing but savages." This is in the classroom. As we reported it, nothing happened. There was no disciplinary actions taken against him. Of course, my mom, being who she is again, was there. I mean, Johnny on the spot, like, this is not acceptable. We will not tolerate this. And as she gathered other parents together, things did start to change. Um, but can you imagine how that feels for someone to call you a savage because of the color of your skin? Um, Going back, I can remember on the playground, um, a young lady, probably we were in the second or third grade, and I'll never forget her. Her name was Sherry. She was a pretty girl. She was of Greek. She was Greek. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what she was. And she kicked me. She kicked me really hard out at recess. And she said she could. And I was like, you know, why would you kick me? And she said she could because her father said I was nothing but a coon anyway. And of course, I didn't accept that kick, right? You know what I did, right? So I don't think I really need to go into that. So I wasn't the one crying at the end. She was the one crying at the end. So I was the one that they wanted to discipline, even though she said what she said. It was like so acceptable to call us all kinds of names. It was okay. And it really wasn't okay. In my home, it was really not okay because of who my mother was. She was not accepting of that at all. And she made sure that we did not accept that. Um, in in most instances, we were not to use violence, but you were not allowed to just let somebody just run you over either. That was not acceptable either. You better not come home crying, talking about so and so happened. No, 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 no. You better fight back. And that's what we did, and we had to.
no,
Um,
because this is your life you're talking about, right? Like, you can't just let somebody, bash you over the head repeatedly. At some point, you have to get back up.
right, and that's what we had to do. Not just me, but others in the neighborhood as well, because of what we were going through.
Yeah.
Um,
Can you give me a quick? So how was? I know this wasn't Ohio. It's pretty north, but it's the Midwest. There is Southern influence there, and there still is today. How was the neighborhoods in Dayton at the time? Were they segregated? As in, like, here's the black neighborhood, here's the white neighborhood, here's the Greek neighborhood.
yes, yes, because where we lived, remember I said we were on William Street. Okay, so here's William Street, and there's a section of I'm sorry, of William Street that was right by the bridge. That was the first part of Williams we lived on, where I said we felt way more accepted than we did when we moved a block up. We only moved a block up. It was the craziest thing. But if you go a block backwards, that was totally almost all black neighborhood. It was like you crossed the bridge. When you crossed the bridge, you knew you were in a black neighborhood. No doubt about it. Almost all the stores and everything in that neighborhood were either white owned or owned by the Jewish community. Even though they didn't live there, that's who owned the businesses there. We did have, as you went further on down, we did have quite a few Black businesses that you could frequent. We had the dry cleaners, we had grocery stores, we had drugstores, you know, we had all kinds of things. But for me, I never lived on that side of town. My mom always, well, when I was real young, but I don't remember it much. But by the time I was 6 years old, 4, 5, 6, um, well, 6 is when we moved on Williams. We did have a Black neighborhood when I was like 4 or 5. I do remember that. We had quite a few. I don't know if you want to edit this out, but we had quite a few Black businesses in that neighborhood because, and I remember it so well because a lot of Blacks did not want to work for our Caucasian community, so they had their own juke joints, and that's how they survived.
Yeah.
That was their means of living. They had their own entertainment. They did everything themselves. They cooked food for others to come in. You would be surprised at the white police that would come in and eat the food, knowing that they had an illegal juke joint. Knowing that.
Shows you how good the food was, though, right?
Yes, yes.
I mean, that's not the only place you kind of see, you know, stuff like that. Like all across America, you had the Negro Leagues playing baseball. You know, I mean, this isn't just an isolated thing, but you know, it's a great example of, you know, how times were. So fast forward to today, when you look at Dayton and the neighborhoods, how would you describe it? Is it still, you know, I know I've been there. It's not completely.
The neighborhood that I grew up in, that I was telling you about on Williams, it's all Black community, all Black community. As a matter of fact, my daughter lives on that street right now. Brandy lives on Williams Street. She lives a block up, even further than where we used to live. But it is an all Black community. When she first moved over there, which has been now almost 4 years ago, it was supposed to be a neighborhood that was up and coming, new homes being built. Um, but you yourself know about gentrification, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
The neighborhood has gone downhill. The white owners of the homes and things over there that are for rent, they don't care about the neighborhood. They don't care what happens in the neighborhood. Um, it has changed in 4 years' time. It has changed dramatically. It's really, really different. Um, the whole area that we were speaking of, where I grew up, it's almost all, it's totally Black, totally Black, totally Black.
So I want to now kind of move toward your high school experiences and what, right, and what desegregation was like there, because I know that was no walk in the park. So
not at
could you please
all
take us through like what your first day, well, actually previous, like what how your mother explained, hey, you're going to this white school, good luck.
Well, so I'm gonna tell you
how
what
was the
happened.
reaction to that?
My mom wanted me to go. My mom really wanted me to go to Colonel White High School, and
what were the dynamics of that? What was the dynamics of that?
The reason she wanted me to go was she wanted to make sure that I was in an integrated school. She wanted to integrate the school. Well, the school had, I would say, probably 20-80, 20% Black, 80% white, Greeks and Jewish. And when my class went, which was 1968, it was probably 30-70. And the year before, I would say the class that came in 67, When 68 hit, when I got there, we were the biggest influx of African Americans that school had ever seen. They were not prepared at all to accept all of us. And we came from different communities and neighborhoods. They were not ready. They didn't know what to do with us. The Caucasians really didn't like it. It was, I cannot say that I had great high school years because I did not. It was terrible.
What did they not like about
They did not like all the blacks being there in the school. As a
it?
freshman,
What were their fears? Like,
I don't know if they feared that we would take over. I don't know if they feared that we would excel in sports. Um, I'm not sure what the real fear was. I think they thought it was going to be rowdy, violent. I don't know exactly what their fears could have possibly have been. I wish I could say that because I really don't know. But which is a really a good question. What were their fears? What did they fear? It was not a good time at all. I had a freshman teacher tell me, well, she used to always stereotype us. You know, we were lazy, we were not smart, we were dumb. We we it was always something about us, and she would make remarks all the time about us. We have very few black teachers. I don't remember having a black teacher until my sophomore year. Um, my freshman teacher, because she stereotyped us, I have to tell you this. I wrote the paper on because we had to write a paper on careers.
hmm.
What is it that
Oh,
you want to do
well,
after
wait,
school?
before you, let me just, I've heard this before, so let me kind of help set the premise of this story. So this is the one who, correct me if I'm wrong. This is the one who told you I didn't come here to teach color folk, right?
Yes. She told me, she told the class, you know, I did not get my degree to come here and teach black kids. And we was like, okay, we all looking at each other in the classroom like, all right, about your luck. Don't know what to tell you. We're here and we're not going anywhere. You might want to look into getting a transfer somewhere because we're not going anywhere. But she was not very nice to us at all. Um, and she again was the one that would always stereotype us. So we had to write the paper on careers. She was very angry at me because I wrote a paper on being a call girl. It was a good paper. I did a lot of background, a lot of history. I had my, it was well written and I knew it was. I had all my footnotes and my bibliography. I mean, I did a lot of work on this paper. I went back to the origins of prostitution and just everything. It was a good paper. And as soon as she started reading it, I knew she had got to my paper because she turned so red. And she took that paper and she threw it and said, Miss Richardson, come to my desk, which I did. She said, this is unacceptable. Go to the office. You are going to be suspended. Went to the office, took my paper, of course. The principal, the assistant principal, felt suspension was warranted, a 3-day suspension, because I had written the paper. It was a paper, come on. That's what she thought of us anyway. That's how I felt. And that's why I wrote it. Um, Making her fears a reality is what I wanted to do. So, plus I was just being a smart ass, okay? Let's be real about it. I was. Because I didn't even tell my mom that I had written the paper. And so when I got my 3-day suspension, of course I go home, I got suspended. My mom was like, oh no, 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 you will not be suspended. She came up there the next day. By the time she got through with them and talking to them, the 3-day suspension was rescinded. They had to take my paper and give it to another teacher who had to grade it. I got an A- on my paper because it was a good paper. And of course, I had to go back to her classroom. But needless to say, she didn't have too much to say to me after that. The good thing about it, it was second semester, so I didn't have a whole lot more time to be in her classroom anyway. The climate in the building was, it was awful. It was really awful. It was a lot of racial tension. I mean, when I say a lot of racial tension, I mean, there were fights every day, black and white fights every day. I mean, there were actually riots in the school building. There was a tunnel up under, it was like the basement floor, and there's this tunnel that you had to go through to get to the gym room. Don't be caught in the tunnel by yourself, because anything could happen, whether you black or white. Anything could happen. You might get bashed in the head, you might get knocked down, and you would not know because the tunnel was kind of dark. It wasn't well lit. So you didn't know who did anything to you in the tunnel. So you couldn't even go tell on anybody for them to be disciplined and receive a consequence because you didn't know who did it. We had I can remember having a fire drill and somebody threw a match on this girl's head. Yes. Hair goes up in flames. It was like, oh my gosh. But I'm not thinking, but I'm next kind of close to her and I'm trying to put the fire out of her hair, but I got an umbrella trying to do it. I'm like hitting this girl in the head, not thinking, but all I'm thinking is, let's get the fire out. Somebody finally put a jacket over her. And I can remember smelling burnt hair in the front hallway for, I mean, it seemed like a month before that smell got out of that building.
So during all of this,
always something.
So during all of this, like what were the staff and teachers doing? Was it just the Wild West?
To me, it was. I think the white teachers were very afraid of the black students, especially the black male students. But I still see that today in 2021.
Yep.
White teachers are afraid of black male students.
Yeah.
They are.
All you have to do is look at the suspension data. You know?
Yes. How can you educate someone you're afraid of? How can you give them your best if you're afraid of them? You cannot. And so I see it by me working in the education arena. I see it all the time. I see where black males know how intimidating they can be and use it to their advantage to get what they want, but they are not understanding either. What you want is an education. You don't want to be intimidating. You want an education. And they're not seeing that. And then the environment and community that they're coming from is not embracing education to let them know that. And so for me, that's really hurting, because when I look back and see all of our ancestors, our people in the past that fought for us to have an education, and then here you are trying not to get an education, you're trying to be intimidating and not receive the services that they're trying to give you. Come on, people, let's stop this.
I completely agree with you.
Let's stop this.
But, but the person doing that is also the scars and the wounds of what you went through, though. Because
I do get that and understand that.
Yeah, because it was that fear, that lack of effort put into the Black community to value education. And if you do that for decades, this is what you get.
But I also feel like living in a Black community, my friends that grew up in the Black community value education way more than the Black kids that were integrated. I think,
Why do
and
you
I
think that
know,
is?
I believe it's because they had Black teachers that went through what I went through. Most of your Black schools had Black teachers that embraced education, embraced it, and put it upon them to excel. You have to excel. This is what you have to do. Even the Black high schools, this is what you must do. We have, I think I have way more friends that came out of Black high schools that went to college than the ones that came out of white high schools, at least in the Dayton area. And that's because the Black teachers pushed them, pushed
Yeah.
them to excel. But that was only, I would say, with around the 60s and 70s. I can't say that for the 50s.
So
I think that they, in the Black communities, they still had a lot of Caucasian teachers and that did not push them and didn't really care if they received their education or not. But it was something about the 60s, and I guess that's when our Great Revolution happened.
so when do you think desegregation became kind of widely accepted in our schools? I mean, obviously, as you
I would
can see,
say,
it still isn't.
I would say mid 70s
Mid-70s.
in the Dayton area. I
Okay.
can't speak for anywhere else, but in the Dayton area, I think probably mid 70s, because
And
my
if you look at the
graduation,
schools today, are they still, are they kind of segregated because of the neighborhoods, or have they done a better job of getting kids the best education they
in the
possibly
Dayton,
can?
Ohio area, they are, I would say the ratio would be probably 80-20 in Dayton. Now, let's go outside of Dayton to the suburban areas, which is probably less than a mile away, and you go to the suburban schools, they are they're still not segregated, not as much as you would think.
Oh, okay.
My granddaughter, Jaya,
Mhm.
she attends Miamisburg High School, which is not that far away, probably from Dayton, maybe 5 miles. And I believe she's probably 70-30. She
Um,
went to Kettering, which is where I live now. And when she went to Kettering High School, it was probably 70-30. So the
uh,
surrounding high schools are still pretty much segregated.
mm.
Do they have a better education? If you look at test scores for our state, their test scores are way higher than the Dayton test scores.
So during all that, how did you maintain your mental health? That's what I'm wondering. In all your high school years, how? And I think I would have gone crazy. How'd you do it?
Well, to be honest, during all of that, to maintain our mental health, there was a group of us that kind of hung out together. And then for me, I can't speak for them, but for me now, I'm used to it because this is what I've been going through with my mom. You know, when the riots and things occurred in Dayton, Ohio, back in 67, 68, 69, my mother was an integral part of the picketing and the marching. And so I was there with her. So for me, it was, I'm not going to say the norm, but it wasn't foreign to me.
Mm-hmm.
And and then with the group that I hung out with, we just kind of, and maybe we shouldn't have, or maybe this was us just trying to adjust mentally. And that is, we laughed a lot. We laughed a lot about all kinds of stuff. We would mock the teachers because we had a science teacher that, I mean, he actually called us niggers. Um, and we would mock him and act just like he would act and just make each other laugh. And
No,
I
it's
mean,
very important to find levity in dark times, you know? I mean,
right.
look
So
at how, like, the
we tried to
comedians.
find the humor in it.
Exactly. Look at all the comedians. A lot of them, the great ones, come from tragic and dark backgrounds. And
Right.
you know, it's important, you know, people need levity, people need a laugh, people need a smile. It's a part of life.
Right.
Looking back, is there anything you would have done differently or wish you had done differently, or are you
Um,
proud?
I don't think there's anything that I would have done differently because um, I made white friends. I had white friends. I had black friends. I had Jewish friends. I had Greek friends. One of my good friends was um, I used to love her. Her name was Tula Manavis, and I love Tula. She was a good friend to me.
Beautiful name.
I had quite a few. I mean, when you're living in a integrated neighborhood, you're either gonna be alone or you're gonna join.
Oh,
And
how did that you just said you have friends of every color. How did you not feel spited or, you know, hatred toward these other people who were
I'm not gonna say
throwing
I didn't feel
stones?
hatred towards some of them. I did. Towards some of them, I did. But then there were some that were nice to us. There was like down the street, there were some that did not like us. But then our next door neighbor, this was so crazy. In her household, the father and the brother did not like us, but her and her daughters, they did. So we embraced what we could, which was the mother and the daughters. We didn't really fool with the father and the brother.
So you went character over color.
Yes, because
Um,
character is very important.
and
I don't care what race you are. Character is important,
um, amen to that.
and that's what. And I think if people would get away from color and look at character, look how much better off we would be.
I
And
hear
that's
that.
what I look at. I even do that today, because there's African Americans that I don't like their character and I don't deal with them.
Yep.
There's there's probably some Jewish people that I know of personally that I don't deal with because I don't like their character. But then there's some that I embrace and we have fun together and hang out together. The
Yeah.
same with with Caucasian. I got some that we hang out and we have a good time. But then there's some I stay away from.
What would you, for students today, what would you tell them in light of today's world of, with everything you've been through and in light of today's world? I mean, we just had a white supremacist as president. We had the Charlottesville riots. You saw what happened with BLM and how they were treated just like MLK was treated. And then you have the Capitol riots who, let's not beat around the bush, uh, predominantly white group were able to storm the Capitol with very little police resistance. So,
Exactly.
what would you tell this generation?
For this generation, I would say activism is important. Organization is important. Do you have to do it in a violent manner? No, you don't. I truly believe that we did get so much done in a peaceful manner, and we can still do that. But I think that you have to have knowledge. I think that you have to increase your knowledge base. You have to surround yourself with like-minded people, and you have to have forward thinking people around you, and you have to be forward thinking yourself.
So
It,
when you say like-minded, that doesn't mean they agree with you, right?
that's right. They don't have to agree with everything that you say and do,
Hmm.
but your philosophies have to be basically the same.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, you don't want to be on a runway, a long runway in this airplane, and you never get off the ground because you're so busy on the runway.
Mm.
I'd rather be on a short runway and we're in that plane and we're doing the same things, thinking the same, and get off the ground.
Yeah.
Let's get off the ground and get this thing going. I want to see, I would love to see everybody on equal footing. You know, it's like I was just saying about test scores in the suburban areas around Dayton. I want our children that's in Dayton to have the same, what's the word I'm looking for?
Opportunity.
Opportunity. Thank you. Same opportunity as their white counterparts that's a mile away from them. They have all the monies in which to be able to afford the good books, the good teachers. They can afford to pay their teachers more money. We do have white teachers that come into Dayton District, but a lot of our teachers that come into Dayton District, it's like they're coming in to save us. We don't need to be saved.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to be saved. If you want to come in and do something, come in and educate. Don't be afraid. Don't be intimidated. Give us what you went to school for. Give us the best of yourself at all times. Do we have the best books? Not all the time, but it doesn't matter. Teach the way you've been taught to teach, and we'll get it. Believe in us. Believe that we can. Don't lower the bar because you don't think we can. Raise the bar and let us live up to that expectation. So that is my hope and dream right now for all kids, no matter where they are. I don't care what world they're in. I don't care what part of the world they live in. If you expect more, you'll get more.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but if you don't expect anything, you're not going to get anything.
You know, you are a role model to me. You know, I'll always be trying to raise the bar, you know, and that, what you said about belief, I think really resonated with me personally. Because when I was in school, you know, I mostly had white teachers. I didn't feel like, you know, a lot of people believed in me except for a few. And I know I'm not alone in feeling, you know, a lot of people
What was
don't.
the ratio for you?
Oh, it's like 2% in my town black,
Okay.
you know, and it's not surprising that like the other 2% that I talk to, you know, we all have the same experiences. The police don't like us, and the schools never believed in us. You know, they didn't think I'd go to college, and you know, in 4 years, I graduated. I mean, it's got the it has the wrong date, but you know, 2019. But you know, either way, you know, because people believed in me. You know,
Right.
that is key. Not only that, but it's raising the bar. I was never satisfied.
Good.
You know, I stayed hungry. You know, and I hope everybody out there watching this, you know, we got to raise the bar together. We got to stay
Yes.
hungry, and we got to
Yes.
stay educated, and we got to keep educating ourselves.
Yes.
We have to keep educating each other. And in order to do that, you have to listen before you react.
Yes.
You know, today I don't see a lot of listening, and I don't see a lot of people willing to educate themselves. You know,
Right.
so
And I agree
listen
with
to the
that
wise words of my
100%.
grandmother, y'all.
And you know, I'm gonna tell you, we're gonna have to get some more mentors out there to grab these young people and mentor them, because I'm looking at my own community and I'm looking at the families in which they come from. They don't have anyone that they can look up to. So we're gonna have to be that one that they can look up to and grab them and say, look, this is the way it is. This is the way it should be. Let's do it this way. Not that what you know, I don't want to put down the families in which they come from. That is not at all my intention, but just show them another way. Mm-hmm. This is a different way we can do it.
Yeah. If you want change, it starts with you.
Yes. Yes. And that is the truth. Well, grab a little one and mentor them. Yeah. It's so important.
I hear you. And JoAnn Richardson, Grandma, I can't thank you enough for lending us your time. You know, being a great influence in my life and in so many others. The work you've done for the community, the example you lead by, I don't even have words to describe how much you mean to so many people. Thank you so much. And on behalf of Justice Vanguard, the city of Los Altos, and so many other people, we thank you for having us today.
Thank you for the interview. I appreciate that. Being able to just give anybody and everybody whatever it is that they want or need. You can call me anytime, talk to me anytime. I'd be happy to share any experiences at all.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Bye-bye. Okay, I'm good. I'm ready whenever you are.
I'm ready.
All right. Listen, you recording?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You don't know how many times I've done that. I would just, with open arms, I want to, this is corny. The hardest part for me is always, I'm sorry.
Why didn't you just write you a script?
I can't, I'm terrible off the script. But, I get started. That's always my problem. Once I get going, I'm fine. Check this though. On behalf of Justice Vanguard, I'd just like to welcome with open arms my grandmother.
JoAnn Richardson.
I know your name. But I say grandma.
Hey, don't make me laugh.
I know. I say grandma, and I'm like, wait, no, I gotta actually say her name now. I'm not used to that.
Okay, we gotta stop laughing.
I know. Okay, let's get this now. On behalf of Justice Vanguard, we have an amazing guest for you guys today.